Hello, this is Sidney Winston, just checking the audio. One moment. Hello. All right.
We had a very good talk, and we've straightened out any complexity. It's very complex stuff, and we straightened it out. The agreement was we're going to have Scott and Howard and Jameson will be going and meeting with their top people and continue it forward. But no, I think we have everything. I think we're in very good shape with China and the trade deal. We have a deal with China, as you know, but we were straightening out some of the points, having to do mostly with rare earth, magnets, and some other things.
So those reduced trade tariff rates, they remain in effect?
Yeah, we have the deal. I mean, we've had a deal. We announced the deal, and we'll be, I guess you could say, I wouldn't even say finalizing it up, Scott. I would say we have a deal, and we're going to just make sure that everybody understands what the deal is. Okay? We had a really good conversation. By the way, he invited me to China, and I invited him here. We both accepted. So I'll be going there with the First Lady at a certain point, and he'll be coming here, hopefully, with the First Lady of China. We had a very good...
All right. So that was 9 hours ago. That was President Donald Trump 9 hours ago singing China's praises, especially his boyfriend, President Xi, before Elon Musk let the cat out of the bag regarding the Epstein files. So there's probably going to be a huge fallout in the coming hours, month. Well, what's it? Tomorrow, Friday, is going to be a big news day, I think. But what I want to get into today specifically is a talk that Moshe Davis had with General Amir Avivi about the Israeli war strategy. Okay, so I don't want to waste too much time, so let's just get right into it.
Briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. We took a little bit of a break for the Shavuot holiday, but we are back today, and of course back with you next week to really bring you behind the headlines, what is happening on the ground here in Israel. It's of course a great pleasure to be joined today by the founder and chairman of IDSF, Brigadier General Amir Avivi. General, thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure, Moshe.
General, we didn't have a briefing for, I guess, 3 days we missed, but it seems like so much has happened in the war. There's way more than 3 days worth of updates. So what can you share with us?
So I'll start with Iran. We've seen 5 sessions of talks with Iran, with the U.S. insisting on the idea that Iran cannot enrich uranium at all. The last time, the U.S. suggested maybe to build a consortium and enrich uranium, a low-grade enrichment for civil purposes with a consortium outside of Iran. But the Ayatollah completely rejected any idea that says that Iran cannot have its own enrichment. Usually when you talk about civil nuclear sites, the enrichment is to the level of 3.6, 3.7. Anything beyond that is for nuclear purposes. And we know that Iran has enriched to the level of 60%, an amount that is enough for 10 bombs. And moving from 60 to 90% is a matter of a week or two.
So here's my little dilemma. The West, Israel and America say that Iran will never get a nuclear bomb, never get nukes. Iran says, yes, you can stop us. We are getting nukes. My question is, up till now, with the Iranian nuclear program running now for decades, maybe, I don't know exactly, but many, many years, how much of the country right now is being served by nuclear-powered electricity versus gas or oil? because that's essentially what nuclear power is for, providing electricity, etc. But I don't understand this. If they're just enriching, but they're not providing services to the communities of the country, then it's obvious that the nuclear bomb is the goal of the Iranian regime. And it's also obvious to me right now that the only way to stop the Iranian regime is to bring down, to stop the Iranian regime from producing this bomb, is to bring down or have the Iranian regime replaced by a more tolerant government. But let's hear what General Avivi has to say, continuing on.
So it's obvious that Iran is moving towards nuclear capabilities. I think that as far as Israel sees it, there is no scenario where Iran will agree to dismantle the nuclear sites, to give up enrichment capabilities. And I think that it's time the U.S. understands that this is not going anywhere.
Exactly, I
and we
agree.
need to deal differently with Iran. The president has said again and again that if they don't agree, at the end of the day, he will resort to other means. And I think we are there. I think we are entering a period of time where there can be a decision at any moment in the U.S. administration that these talks are over. And now we're moving to a different phase, which might look in two ways. One is giving Israel a green light to attack. And I think that in Israel, the readiness is high. The willingness is also high. Israel feels that this is the moment to deal with the Iranians. And of course, it's a very big different scenario whether Israel acts alone and without coordination with the US, or it's fully coordinated. And also, it's very different if the US leads the attack or Israel. So I think we'll see in the coming weeks, months, dramatic developments talking about Iran.
Why wait so long?
And I think it's time
do it tomorrow.
that the world really gets rid of this really imminent threat that might existentially threat Western countries, including Israel. Cannot allow Iran to be nuclear in any scenario. I think it's time to act. And I think there is an understanding in Israel that this time is really close. Talking about Gaza.
All right, so Iran is pretty much like I was talking about. There's no choice. It's take out the Iranian regime. Taking out the nuclear capabilities and the enriched uranium and blah, 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 blah is probably a good idea as well. But the better idea is taking out the Iranian regime. I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised if one of these mornings, tomorrow morning, we wake up and we find that the supreme Ayatollah of Iran has been eliminated. That would be the best news ever. I wonder if General Avivi will actually talk about that.
We see Israel initiated distributing humanitarian aid in a different way. We brought American contractors which build in areas controlled by the IDF sites where they give Gazans packages of food. Gazans come, representatives of families, they take packages straight to their own families. At the beginning, they started with one site. As of today, 4 sites are working. Each site is around, gives a solution to around 300,000 Gazans. So basically 6 sites might be enough to really cover the whole Gaza Strip. But at the moment there are 4, which is good for 1,200,000, not all the Gazans. And so they're also bringing aid in other ways. At the beginning, it seemed like a bit disorganized, and it took also the Gazans a bit of time to understand how it works. every day that passes, it's getting more organized, and the coordination between the IDF and these American companies is getting better and better.
So he's talking about the food aid. For the last 600 days, the food aid that's been going into Gaza has just been sort of dumped on the other side of the wall and left for whoever to come and take care of it. Hopefully, a United Nations or some government, United Nations funded organization was supposed to deliver the food to the Gazan people. Well, that didn't work. Now the Israelis are doing it, and according to General Avivi here, they seem to be doing a damn fine job. Let's listen some more.
This is really preoccupying Hamas. They're very concerned that they're losing control of the Gazan society. Hamas hasn't been able to pay salaries in the last month and a half. They're not seizing aid the way they did before. They don't have sources of income. And this is putting a lot of pressure on Hamas and on Hamas activists and terrorists. And this is good news. And as this is happening, the IDF is expanding the attack in Gaza. The goal is to conquer 75% of the Gaza Strip in 2 months. At the moment, the IDF is operating something like 40-50% of Gaza. The IDF is proceeding very carefully because we really want to clean completely every area the army goes in, to clean it from terrorists and terror infrastructure, all the tunnels, all the booby traps, and the houses that are booby trapped, and munitions, and so on. So this needs to be done very systematically.
Very systematically. That is exactly what should have been done from the very beginning. What they did, though, what the Israeli army did, was they went in, they cleaned out an area of terrorists, and then they retreated out and went somewhere else, and then the terrorists came back and went booby-trapped houses and stuff. So this is what he's talking about.
Without missing places and sites. So we don't want to see terrorists suddenly emerging from a tunnel behind the soldiers, as we saw, by the way, twice in the last 2 weeks. So the tactics, the way the army is attacking, it's done in a very thorough way, also trying to keep the life of the soldiers and using multiple technologies and capabilities in order to safeguard our soldiers. So every day that passes, Hamas is losing more and more control of the Gazans. It's losing control of areas that the IDF is taking over, and the IDF is also systematically destroying the leadership of Hamas. We saw the killing of Sinwar's brother, Muhammad Sinwar, and the brigade commander of Rafah, Shabana, and many others. And it's ongoing. Every day, the IDF is attacking with the Air Force in coordination with the Shin Bet and destroying completely all the leadership, what remains of the leadership of Hamas. And as they are losing their leadership, like we saw in Lebanon with Hezbollah, this is impacting also the way to control what's happening, and they are under a lot of pressure. And this pressure is bringing Hamas to the table. And I think that maybe in a week or two, maybe more, depends how things will develop, they will feel pressured enough and desperate enough to ask a ceasefire in which we'll get hostages. This last day, the IDF managed to retrieve 2 bodies of Israeli citizens, and now the amount of hostages in Gaza went down from 58 to 56. And there are all the time operations in Gaza trying to find the hostages, those who are alive and those who are not alive. It's ongoing all the time. The efforts are really, really big. And of course, when you operate, when you are on the ground or in the area, this gives opportunities, as we saw today. And we're moving towards reaching the goal of war. Today, there was a lot of talk in Israel about the army and the Shin Bet equipping a clan in Rafah.
Oh, really? So, hold on a second. A clan in Rafah, which is in Gaza, the IDF equipped armed and equipped a clan. This, I got to listen to this.
And indeed, the IDF is in direct contact with different clans in Gaza. Specifically in Rafah, there is a clan working with Israel and already controlling a certain area in. This is Israel's way to bring down Hamas as a governmental entity, one of the ways to undermine them by working with the clans and encouraging the clans in Gaza to revolt against Hamas. And this effort is ongoing. It's very, very meaningful. Today we also had a visit from Germany in Israel.
Wow. Did you know that that's just what the IDF was doing, what Israel was doing? Was starting to work with clans in Gaza who are going to work with Israel to pretty much eliminate Hamas. Hamas's time is very, very, very limited in Gaza, I must say. Oh, shit. I just fucked up. Hold on. I messed up. I moved it and I don't know where we were.
Clean completely every area. They go into details. You see, there was a lot of attempts to attack Israel, but mainly by Britain, France, and Spain.
Oh, he was talking about the German guy, right? Yeah.
And they were moving towards reaching the cause of war.
Okay.
Today there was a lot of talk in Israel about the army and the Shin Bet equipping a clan.
Oh yeah, after this was sorry.
And indeed, the IDF is in direct contact with different clans in Gaza. Specifically in Rafah, there is a clan working with Israel and already controlling a certain area in. This is Israel's way to bring down Hamas as a governmental entity, one of the ways to undermine them by working with the clans and encouraging the clans in Gaza to revolt against Hamas. And this effort is ongoing. It's very, very meaningful. Today we also had a visit from Germany in Israel, Minister of Foreign Affairs, who sided with Israel against France and said that this is not the time to talk about a Palestinian state. We've seen the last few weeks a campaign talking about international tsunami against Israel and everybody's against us and so on. But when you really go into details, you see there was a lot of attempts to attack Israel, but mainly by Britain, France, and Spain. All three countries are flooded with Islamists and radical Islamists. They are worried more about their internal politics. We see what's going on in France, the riots there. And they think that if they will attack Israel, this will help them with their Muslim minority. And I think it's the other way around. When they side with terror, when they side with Muslim Brotherhood, it gets the radical Muslims in their own countries more radical, and they feel that their countries are weak and they can attack them. And I think that it's a very bad policy. And we're trying to really explain to these governments that this is not the right way to go. If they want to be perceived as strong countries, they need to side with Israel. They need to push for a decisive win in Gaza, because winning against Hamas, this is not just going to impact Israel. This is defending the whole Western Hemisphere. This is really weakening Muslim Brotherhood, not just in Gaza, but all over the Middle East.
That's it. Eliminating the Muslim Brotherhood. Instead of saying Hamas, instead of saying ISIS, instead of saying anything at all, just say Muslim Brotherhood. Once that's gone, we pretty much, the whole inspiration for war, for hatred, is being eliminated. So the Muslim Brotherhood, the hatred of the Muslim Brotherhood, is the obstacle, the primary obstacle facing Israel. and the
by doing
world.
that, stabilizing governments that are more moderate. So it's not just about Israel. Israel is fighting the fight of the whole Western society. And I think there are many countries who understand that. And also countries who feel they need a strong alliance with Israel, especially due to the Russian-Ukrainian war, due to their need to build their own armies against threats. And they're procuring a lot of capabilities from Israel. Israel has done a huge leap in this last year in core technologies to such an extent that some of the technologies that Israel has developed in the last year will give Israel an edge 50 years ahead. Some things Israel did in the last year are beyond imagination, bending the laws of physics, of chemistry. This war has really brought an outburst of creativity, ingenuity in Israeli high-tech and military factories and the industry. And this is going to impact in the very long time. And I think that many countries understand that this is the case. And the more decisively we win this war, more and more countries will side with Israel and want good relations. And therefore, I'm not really impressed by this so-called tsunami in our international relations. I think it's a few months that we'll have to deal with some challenges, but if we win decisively, everything will change in favor of Israel. And this is why we need to push forward and really achieve the goals of war.
The goal of the war, number one, is to eliminate Hamas. Number two, return the hostages. Goal number one is priority number one, and I don't give the hostages much of a chance. Although it's possible that some of the clans or a clan is holding all the hostages and Israel is negotiating with them somehow. That's got to be the only way we're going to see the hostages come out alive, is if the Gazan clans take control of them and return them. I think is pretty much the only way that I can see it. If anybody has any other idea, by all means, leave it in the comment.
In the north, since the ceasefire in Lebanon, Israel killed more than 180 Hezbollah terrorists, multiple attacks almost on a daily basis. Israel is attacking Lebanon on a daily basis. Every time Hezbollah tries to rebuild itself, Israel retaliates and attacks. And Hezbollah is becoming weaker and weaker, and the Lebanese government is getting stronger and stronger, and also emboldened to deal with Hezbollah. And I think this is a strategy we need to continue and pursue in the long term, making sure that Lebanon moves from predominantly being dominated by Iran to Emirates, Saudi Arabia, US, Europe, and not the other way. In Syria, things are developing. This week, there was for the first time shooting of 2 mortars from Syria to Israel. Israel attacked fiercely, but we have to understand that Syria is not really an organized country. It's a mess with different groups. Some areas, ISIS and Al-Qaeda are operating. In others, you have the Alawis or the Kurds or the Druze, and other areas are controlled by the new Syrian government that by itself is very extreme and dangerous, with the Thai and all disappearance, but are still very extreme. So we really depend on ourselves, and the fact that we are inside Syria, we created a buffer zone. We are on the Hermon mountain, on the highest place. This helps Israel secure better the area, and overall things in the north are stable.
You know, in my view, at this point, until Israel eliminates Hamas, like absolutely eliminates them totally, and Hamas and the Gaza Strip is free from Muslim Brotherhood hatred. I forgot what my fucking point was. What an idiot. I'll have to think about it. Sorry. Embarrassing or what?
Last week, again and again, we saw ballistic shooting from Yemen. It's ongoing. It's all the time. Israel is attacking fiercely. We destroyed their airport. We destroyed all the planes of the Houthis. We hit very hard.
I remember my point. Sorry. Until Israel eliminates Hamas, eliminates the Muslim Brotherhood in the Gaza Strip, up until that moment, including right now, Israel is defeated by Hamas. Hamas attacked, the Muslim Brotherhood attacked southern Israel October 7th, 2023, and defeated Israel that day. And for the following 600 odd days, up until today, Israel stands defeated. But once Hamas is eliminated, at that point, Israel is victorious. Until then, Israel is defeated.
Ports, but these guys are stubborn, and no matter how much we hit them, they still shoot. And I think Israel will have to eventually create the capabilities to destroy these industries and launchers and ballistic missiles, and hopefully also the leadership of the Houthis. But what we knew how to do in Lebanon with 20 years of intelligence collection, you don't manage to do in a few months in Yemen. We have a lot of work to do there, and in the IDF, Mossad, everybody is working very hard to create really the intelligence and capabilities needed to deal with the Houthis. In this sense, I can say we're very disappointed that the US stopped attacking them. Could have helped us a lot, but this is the reality. This is what we're dealing with. And us, we're dealing with all these fronts in different places. The two big issues are in the center of public discussion. One is the draft of the ultra-Orthodox. The ultra-Orthodox parties are threatening to go to elections.
All right, this is where I totally agree with this guy. Fuck the religious Jews in Israel who pretend that they are actually adding something of value to society by studying Torah and thereby being somehow immune from serving, doing your civic duty, as in Israel it is, to serve in the army. Currently, the political situation in Israel is just messed up with these religious people. The religious people are threatening to bring down the government if the Israeli government legislates that the ultra-religious men who study Torah have to serve in the IDF, in the army. Leeches, these fucking people are leeches. I have no love for religious Jews, Christians, Muslims, almost every denomination. I have some that I absolutely don't hate, but this extremist religion on the triune extreme, the triune of extremism, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Extreme. So, with that said, carry on, General.
If there is not a law that they are happy about, of course, the law they want is not an effective law to really enable the draft of enough ultra-Orthodox to the army, because what they suggest is doing a law with no sanctions in a way that if somebody doesn't come to the army, nothing happens. And it's problematic. I must say that I'm very, very, very disappointed from the Haredi leadership, the rabbis, the politicians. They don't seem to understand the magnitude of the war, the prices we are paying, the challenges of the army and our reservists. I think I would have expected them to take it more seriously, because at the end of the day, Israel is saying, we're not saying to the boys of the yeshiva who are studying Torah all day, join the army. We're talking to those who are not studying. And this is more
Bullshit! Talk to the ones who are studying. What do they need to study Torah for? For fuck's sake, it's all stories, you know. And I just want to give you a tangent quickly. All the stories that you hear from the very, very young rabbis today, the intonation and the way they tell them and the actual content of the stories, I've heard exactly the same stories when I was a child from the rabbis who were very old to me when I was a child. So this nonsense about learning Torah, it's all about them learning how to tell stupid stories that make no sense at all and that don't solve anything. Rant over.
more than half of the potential draft. Thousands and thousands of Haredi who are not really studying in the yeshivas, and we want to draft them. And even those, it seems that it's not so easy to do so. And we'll see if the government survives this discussion. Now talking, trying to find solutions, but who knows? We might find ourselves in a terrible, terrible situation that in the middle of this war, just before we're attacking Iran, in the middle of this maneuver in Gaza, we find ourselves in elections. It's crazy. It's really crazy. And I hope it won't happen. I don't think Israel should be in elections in the middle of a war. We need to win first. And today, there is also a very, very big demonstration in Jerusalem of the right wing against the Supreme Court and all the judicial system. In Israel, big discussion between classic democracy of the people, and aristocracy, meaning control of judges. This is, by the way, one thing the IDSF doesn't deal with. We deal with national security, not with the judicial reform, although it's a very important issue. And many of our members probably will be in this demonstration in Jerusalem. But we are big believers in focusing on core missions. And our mission is to promote Israel's security for generations to come. And this is what we do. Really dealing with national security. Of course, also the judicial reform has some aspects of national security, but the discussion is way beyond these issues. So things are hectic, happening all the time, every day. Moshe?
General, thank you so much for that very thorough overview. So many questions to ask you. We're going to try to get through some of them right now. And then next week, we're going to have you on at least twice to really be able to catch up with all of this critical, all of these critical issues. And a reminder to all of our wonderful viewers and supporters, if you appreciate these briefings, please like, share, and on YouTube channel and spread the word so we can continue sharing the truth. General, let me ask a kind of a general question.
Please
at least a year ago, if not more, we spoke a lot about the need for Israel and the IDF to present this military approach of shock and awe, that the enemies of Israel indiscriminately and aggressively target Israel. And therefore, Israel, not indiscriminately, but Israel would need to overpower them and speak the language of the Middle East in a way that our enemies really understand they need to be deterred. And it seems like Israel has kind of returned to this very strategic and kind of surgical attacks on our enemies and it's not creating deterrence, whether it's with the Houthis, whether it's in Syria. So what about this concept of shock and awe, that Israel launched a massive strike in any of the spheres necessary to bring about a closure of that front?
So what we did in Lebanon was a shock and awe. But to do it, you need for years and years to build very, very good intelligence and capabilities. We saw the operation with the pagers. To develop something like that takes a very, very long time to create a reality where instantly 5,000 Hezbollah terrorists get blown up. This creates shock and awe. But when you take a place like Yemen, where Israel simply didn't deal with it at all, because it was clear that the Houthis, Yemen, this is the US mission, not Israeli mission. And Israel really didn't develop the intelligence and capabilities, especially the intelligence capabilities we have, to really go in depth of, the whole structure and the commanders and how to find them and so on. In Gaza, two things make it very, very hard to operate like we did with Hezbollah. One is the infrastructure, the fact that there's a whole city underground of tunnels, and the Hamas simply goes underground, and this really creates a kind of warfare that is different, slow, very systematic, and how to find these tunnels, how to destroy them, how to kill the terrorists. It looks more like the kind of war we saw in Berlin in the Second World War, and not shock and awe. The other thing is the hostages. The IDF is working more carefully in areas in Gaza because of the hostages. Without the hostages, I believe that the whole scenario in Gaza probably would have been very different. And by the way, this is why Hamas took the hostages. They knew that this is the reality that will be created, but our message is, it's not going to stop us. Maybe it's more difficult, it's more complicated, it's slow, but they thought that we cannot fight for a long time, and if it will be long, it will be bad for Israel. But we are showing that we can fight for a long time, and this is bad for them, because every day that passes, Israel is getting stronger and stronger, and every day that passes, they are getting weaker and weaker until we will destroy them. So even in this sense, time works for Israel. It's not endlessly. We need to move forward. And today, I can say that the timetable is really clear. Next year, not before, but there won't be early elections. Next year, Israel has elections, in the end of October. US has elections in November for Congress and Senate, and both leaders understand that they must get to these elections when three main missions are done in the Middle East. One is a decisive win in Gaza.
Wow, we are at such a crossroads right now. We've got Israel on the verge of eliminating Hamas. We've got the world on the verge of dealing with Iran's intransigence regarding nuclear enrichment. And we have internal strife in the United States emerging with the conflict between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. The world is getting way more interesting. Oh, and there's also the Russia-Ukraine war, which continues for now. I think we're into the 2.5 years? 2022? I can't even remember. Anyway, let's get done with this.
Gaza, which means destroying Hamas and winning the hostages, a decisive win against Iran, one way or another, whether it's dismantling everything diplomatically, which probably won't happen, or attacking them, and regional peace agreements. And Now both countries are working very hard to achieve these goals because they want to reach the next elections with these big achievements that will impact how things will look also during elections. We can imagine how elections will look if there is peace agreements regionally and globally, if Iranian threat has been destroyed, if in Gaza there is a decisive win and all the hostages are back. These are missions that they want to achieve. This is why the government in Israel now is giving the army clear timetable. You have 2 months to conquer 75% of Gaza, and then you have this and this time to conquer the rest, and in between maybe a hostage deal. And so to accumulate all of that, we're talking about maybe 6 months to really achieve the goal of destroying Hamas and bringing back the hostages.
All right, 6 months. So it's now the beginning of June. So 6 months would be before the end of the year. Before the end of the year, 100% of Gaza will be conquered. Should be conquered, must be conquered. And Hamas must be 100% eliminated. 6 months. I think the rest of 2025 is gonna be a party.
It's tough to manage to do it in 6-7 months, but it's possible. And then I think the whole center of gravity from the end of the year will be signing regional and global peace agreements and treaties. And of course, in between, there will be probably also an attack on Iran.
General, final question. We only have a few minutes, and then we'll plan to continue this on Monday. Israel has been collecting intelligence, presumably for decades, and there are no hostages in Iran. So can we expect to see shock and awe in Iran? What are your thoughts?
Okay, well, before he replies, what do you guys think? Well, just what do you think? Will Israel apply shock and awe to Iran? And will the result be the end of the Iranian regime?
I think that Israel can attack in Iran, and we can do it alone, but it's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is together with the U.S. That's the best way.
Brigadier General Amir Avivi, thank you so much for joining us today and for all of your leadership in this war. Thank you to all of our viewers and supporters for tuning into this briefing. We will be back with you next week, Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.
That is that. I would like to know if you would like me to review or run these interviews with General Avivi like I just did. Would you be interested in watching? You don't have to watch live, of course, but would you watch it? Leave your answer in the comment. I will read it. But pretty much for that, for now, for today, I'm done. And if you stayed all the way to the end, to this point, maybe I should buy you a coffee.